Hi everyone, and welcome to another little episode where we're going to be looking at the pages from the book of Judges. Last time we covered chapter 3, and this is the beginning of chapter 4. Now, we're only going to cover a couple of verses, but that's because we're starting a new sort of section, and actually there's quite a lot of historical elements to look at. The verse starts with the death of Ehud, and then we jump straight into the beginning of the story with Deborah and Barak. It says, God sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, and he reigned at Hatzor. Now, in the background of this first image that you can see on the left then, going from the back to the front, in the background you can see the Hatzor itself, the actual, the big sort of castle or whatever that was there. It was like a fortress with a city, and now you've heard me say many times that we draw everything accurately as possible. You'll be able to see why in this episode. So I just remembered I was going to start with the Canaanites, but let's see how we get on. Bring up the internet. And I believe, okay, so on this slide you can see the castle in the background. So on the far left of the image, this is an image from Seti II, and he has a battle in the Levant, in Canaan at the time, around this same sort of time. In the background, I mean, it's probably quite stylized, but this is how they depicted a castle or whatever of the time. And so on the actual thing then, you can see that I've drawn it so that it's kind of, similar. And then, more importantly, go back to the internet. Okay, you got this image where it actually shows you Hatzor itself, the real place. So this was one that I used to then draw the, like the motte which it's built on, sort of artificial hill. I think that it's artificial. That they've then put the keep on the top, and so it's been excavated, and that's an aerial photograph. Okay, let's take you back. Moving forward then, you can see there's some slaves in the background, and then they're taking sort of more slaves. The people are actually in the style which was on the first slide with the Seti's battle, and that's where some of the styles of the Israelites and the Canaanites and stuff have been taken from. It's from contemporary images like that. The Canaanites themselves are in the foreground as well, and now the Canaanites were called the purple people, because they could produce the colour purple, and they did so at the time. Now this is basically their introduction into the story, and you can see that they're dark-skinned. What I was going to do then is show you some images. I think this one. So here's one it's actually from the tomb of King Tut. His name's gone out of my head. It's from a Tutankhamun. It's his chest inside his tomb, and on the side are painted him defeating some Canaanites. So if you look underneath the horse and piled up onto the right hand side, there's lots of Canaanites fighting and dead and getting eaten by dogs and stuff like that. So that's one of the images. This is another one from another sort of tomb, coloured, which is helpful. They had lots of patterns and stuff on their garments, and they wore this kind of robe that wraps around you, and they also wear these hats. But the thing to notice as well is their kind of hair. It's like very much sort of like an afro, pretty much, and they've got these black, beards, dark skin. And so we know this was what it was like at the time. I'm not convinced that the third one on that one is actually a Canaanite, but the other ones are. This is a good image then from Egypt, where it's got a picture of a Canaanite mercenary, and this one, I was thinking about where it's from, but so you can see that the sort of the face, the nose, the everything, the skin colour, they were much more African in look than perhaps people would expect. People might expect them to be more Arabic kind of looking. Here's another image from another tomb, and so that gives you some of the reference for the Canaanites. You'll notice they've got bronze spears and bronze knives and stuff, because this is still the Bronze Age. I haven't gone into the Iron Age quite. And so the next image, if I bring it across a bit, is actually King Jabin and Sisera. Here they're introduced again. This is the first time, so you're getting a good sort of look at them. And what we've got going sort of left to right on this panel, you've got a harpist. The fact they had harpists in their rooms is seen in an ivory, which is cut of a Canaanite prince or king at the time. The type of instrument, the lyre that they've got, this kind of harp, is the style. And then looking at Jabin himself, I'll take you back to the internet. And then this one's taken from Bible.ca. They do quite a lot of information. It always looks like this. Uses distinctive text. They always know it's their images. But you can see a statue on the right of this image, where it's actually the king. Now, some sort of archaeologists are like, oh, it's a god and all that. But personally, I agree with this person. I think it's a specific depiction of a king, and this is found at Hatzor and it's believed to be Jabin, and then as this slide is also telling you, his name is attested in the Amarna texts. Oh, well, anyway, this, however, the confirmation of the name that it's referring to is not the right this period, but Jabin is thought to be like a throne name, or like a name that the kings hand down, like Henry the Eighth is obviously the 8th Henry that's called Henry. Jabin is a name that the kings have, and so we know of at least 2 in the Bible, because you've got the one who was king when Joshua was alive, and then you've got this one, and he's a couple hundred years later. Now, the other thing is, of course, again, he's wearing purple, and the reason that you saw that image a second ago, if you look closely at the throne, it's dark in colour. I've done it so it's like carved out of mahogany or something like that. But there's the sort of sphinx, you might call it, or a cherubim, that have been carved in, and the faces and the style that I've used is from the ivory, which you saw a second ago that you're about to see again. This is actually from Megiddo. It's a carved ivory. It seemed to be a thing, at the time, that they would make these objects out of ivory. There's actually quite a lot of them found, but you can see again the style. It's very kind of Egyptian, of course, but also kind of African as well, and so it's really interesting, and so I used that as for the throne. Also, the reason I know that there's cherubim on the throne in the first place is because again, the same, I should have brought that up, the ivory, maybe we'll look at next time, which shows you a prince in Canaan, and some people have even said it might be a depiction of Solomon. Lastly, this cup that he has in his hand. You can see a little lion-faced cup. This is also a real object that was found at Hatzor. They excavated it. It's believed to be sort of period with this time, and so that has also been drawn into the image. Finishing off then, I guess, with Sisera on the far right. You've got him strong, Egyptian, so you can see the difference in the colour of their skin as well. So you've got the Canaanite there, but the Egyptian depict them with equally dark but ruddier skin, and he is wearing a wig here. When he goes and then fights everybody, he doesn't have the wig on, but his style of his armour is period Egyptian style armour, and his sword and everything, and we'll see more of that in the following panels. To conclude then, just to remind you, this is the last week where the Kickstarter is running. It ends on Sunday, Easter Sunday at 9 p.m. UK time. Don't miss that, and join us next week where we're going to be covering more of the Book of Judges. Thanks for watching.